we go through a lot of challenges at work, and again, we're closer to home where we see all the challenges too immediately.
Mhm.
So there'd be times that you'd be stressed out, you'd be exhausted, and it's important that you have the support of your family members. So what
Mhm.
I really recommend for those who work from home is really work not only with your colleagues at work, but also with the people in the household so that they
Mhm.
understand your situation.
Good day and welcome to season 17, episode 10. Today we have Karen Aguilar, who will be talking about a rather timely topic, especially with the recent viral video that happened in TikTok. And we're talking about managing challenges from working from home. And well, Karen, pretty much she's a mother. She has a 6-year-old son, and her career actually started with training, and then she made a deliberate move into HR, where she got a little more involved with learning and development. So, with that said, over to you, Karen. Maybe you can tell us a little more about yourself.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Paul. Hi to anyone who's watching
Hi,
this.
Karen.
Yeah, I'm very happy that I got invited to share my experiences and some things I know about working from home. Aside from the things that Paul mentioned, yes, he's right. From being a corporate trainer, I moved to being part of the HR team. Actually, that happened as a blessing because it started when I moved to learning and development during the pandemic. So yeah, and that's where I really experienced and I started working from home. So just a bit of a background about working from home. All of us were forced to work from home, if you remember that time during the pandemic. So starting 2019 up to this point, I've been working from home. So going 5 years or more than 5 years now. I work currently for a BPO company that is operating remotely 100%. And I'm currently the employee experience lead for DME Service Solutions. And from the things I got involved in, and of course, since the expectation is to support people working from home, I really learned a lot. And I have this vision for the company to really be one of the go-to remote workplace in the industry. Um, Personally, as what you mentioned, I'm a mother. I am also a Star Wars fan. I don't know if that's interesting. And I'm into the usual cooking, watching Netflix, and other things. So those are the things about me, Paul. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Star Wars, actually, for my age, it's usually Star Trek, but I prefer Star Wars. I find it much cooler. But let's start with this. You mentioned that you're the lead for employee experience, and recently, especially with the pandemic, when the pandemic came along, there are a lot of different job titles that came up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a boomer, and job titles were pretty much, oh, I know what that person is, I know what that person is, and also an employee experience. Let's start there. Well, what does an employee experience? What's their main role? What do they do?
Good question. So the employee experience role is a well, I'm describing this based on my current role right now in the company. So it's a mix uh of learning and development, employee engagement, and corporate communications. With the same curiosity that you have, because before I started as an L&D manager, and I was just focusing on that function. But because of the needs of the organization I was part of before, I got involved to employee engagement, helping out other HR processes. So when I moved to this current company where I've been working for almost 2 years now, um, I embraced those three sub-functions of HR. And I started as an L&D manager and corporate communications lead, and then it evolved to employee engage. I mean, I also handled employee engagement. And looking at the three, those three are critical functions in making sure that employees have a great experience in the company. So from the old role, the new role became employee experience lead.
Uh, it's unusual if you want to say. Maybe that was an outcome of the pandemic. Okay, because a lot of roles were maybe recast or new
Mhm.
roles came up
Yeah.
and so many new things happened. And one of the biggest changes was the concept of working from home. Now, I have some friends, even my brother, who was a corporate trainer himself with one of the largest companies in the world.
Mhm.
Okay, he retired. But even before the pandemic hit, he already was pretty much working from home. All the training was done via Zoom. I think in their case it was WebEx, one of the first video
Yeah.
conferencing tools.
Mhm.
And it's also he was comfortable with it. But most of us, myself included, work from home. I said, "Whoa, what's this?" Okay. So, in your experience, you said you started working at home just before the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, during the
What?
pandemic, when
Oh,
everybody was
during.
forced, forced because of the lockdown.
Okay. Now, from you, from a personal point of view, what were some of the biggest challenges that you ran into working from home, having
Oh,
to make that shift practically overnight?
yeah, yeah. There were many challenges that we experienced, especially when it was starting, because remember the sudden announcement of the lockdown really made us force people to stay at home for their safety. And the transition time um, was very short. Like people were even finding a spot where they can set up their home office. There are some arrangements at home that they need to fix. So the actual transition itself was difficult. Personally, for me, I had challenges reorganizing things here at home because I don't have a physical home office that I can use immediately. So I just set up a table, a plain table. I pull up a dining chair, and that itself is already my home office. So the transition is one, and good thing the organization I was part of provided support to the employees. Like they
Hmm.
provided additional funding for desk for us to buy office desk and chairs, and there were some coordination that was made to ensure that all other needs are supported. Constant communication was done by the leadership team to ensure that despite the new setup in the workplace, things are going well. We know the expectations. There were some changes with how productivity is monitored, but of course, the key thing there is really open communication with your leader. So that's one. That's one of the challenges, transition. And now that we've been working for home for a long time, I think there are many things that have been changed already here at the house. There are some schedules that need to be followed because
Right.
one of the challenges too that someone who's working from home goes through is compartmentalizing things. Because right
Mm.
now you're bringing the workplace at home, right? Before I mean, people here at the household can just focus on anything that they want to do because this is home. But you bringing your work at the office is also a challenge for them. It's an adjustment.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
um, yeah, compartmentalizing things is also one of the adjustments that one has to do if one is working from home.
Right. I think I heard of that concept, but it was described to me as you have to set your own boundaries in your house. You
Right.
say, "This is my when I'm working." You have to set those things up. But that's you on a personal basis, and I feel that you're rather fortunate that you had an organization that supported you like that.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I know some organizations that had zero support.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
And but you mentioned a couple key things. One is you mentioned open communication.
Right.
Okay, now this is an interesting observation. Uh, why was it different from when you were in the office? I mean, was the communication while you were in the office less open,
Mm.
or do you know what I mean? Of course, I can't
Yeah.
see you all the time, so maybe the communication is limited. So now I have to open. But why was it any different? You know, I mean,
Uh, um, as you know, Paul, and again, answering your question first about that, wasn't it an open communication back then in the office? It was already. It's actually a good interaction, a better interaction because you see people face to face, right?
mhm,
But when you shifted going to working from home or remote working, things change in terms of the face to face interaction, because of course you can have a meeting via Teams or Zoom, and you can
mhm,
opt to turn off your camera, and that blocks
right.
the communication, the meaningful interaction that you used to have before. Also,
Mhm,
there are some challenges that are difficult to bring up from home, right? Like before, if
right.
you're in the office, you can just focus on work itself, but here, now that you are at home, there are people in the house. They could be listening to the challenges that you go through, and it's a bit awkward to
Mhm,
share that in the workplace. One realization I have about open communication, me being a leader too, is making sure that you find a time to connect with your direct report. What's very unique about working from home is, um, of course, if you don't see someone, likely you would have questions about, is this person working, right? Is this person is this person present? Okay,
right.
those are the things that you would wonder about if you work from home. So the trust that you have to give to someone who's working from home should
Mhm.
be should be protected, should be established, so that from there you can keep on communicating openly. So those are the challenges.
You know, absolutely. There was there was one company, and I was talking to one of the employees there, and you know, he
Mhm.
said it's funny because now that we're working from home, my boss is wondering if I'm working or not. And then the guy goes, "Well, when I go to the office, he's still wondering if I'm working or not." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, that's
What difference does
true.
it make? Okay. No, in
That's
fact,
true.
in that viral TikTok
Mhm.
video, if you want to say, one of the bosses said it just makes them dumber and lazier. You
Mhm.
know, and you know what I said? Because you're using the comparative, I'm assuming that you're starting from the point that they are dumb and lazy.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
said, I said, so whether you believe the person is dumb or lazy at work or away from work, he's still dumb and lazy in your mind. It's not the same.
Mhm. Correct,
I said that
correct.
that's just insane. But I can also understand the plight of the boss.
Mhm.
Okay, in fact, I think sometime in March of 2021, or just as the episode was settling in, I wrote an article on LinkedIn about this, and I said, look, the challenges that the organization is facing. Uh,
Mhm.
the way I'm seeing it is before, because I'm a corporate, I mean I'm a trainer, not corporate trainer, but I train companies. I'm third party. Typically, I would say, okay, all you have to do now is align your values with the values of the organization. It's a typical line you hear.
Yeah.
And I wrote in my article, said now it's different because now the organization has to align their values with the values of the person.
Mhm.
Okay, and I don't think companies are very comfortable with that. Okay, considering
Mhm.
that they're the ones spending all the money. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
they're sending you money for the table, the chair, and then they tell you, "Oh no, you have to do as I say." So something I definitely feel for them. But other than that, and the trust issue, which I think is, I find it as a little sad. Okay, because I should be able to trust you whether you're at office at work or not. In
Mhm.
my thinking, you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean. Uh, Considering that I'm a boomer myself, when I started with a punch screen, the Bundy clock. Okay,
Mhm.
that's how I started working. Okay, I said, what the hell, come on. But from your point of view, and I'm glad that you had a very supportive company. I'm sure you also heard some stories from some of your friends about companies that maybe had different ideas. So, well, what are some of the things that you heard about how organizations were reacting to work from home?
Um, Other things that companies need to do is really to strengthen the leadership, because leading from leading remote team is different from leading a team that you can see every day. So they
mhm,
really invest on training the leaders, understanding the right mindset.
mhm,
The mind shift too is very important, Paul, because as what you said earlier, there are some organizations or there may be some leaders who are adjusting the way they look at core values. And
mhm,
before it was the organization that really is the assigning or deciding on the core values that they have to uphold, which is really the case. But now it's like shifting to a balance of also understanding the values of the people in the organization, the employees. Because
right,
especially for people who are working from home, these people are likely the ones who have some personal circumstances that force them, not even, maybe force for some, but others,
mhm,
they use that personal circumstances um, motivate them to work hard within their houses. Okay.
mhm,
So I like what you said about companies considering now the values that are important to their employees too, not just focusing on the values that they have. And from there, leaders are made to understand to be more empathic about
mhm,
what remote workers go through day in and day out, because
mhm,
there may be some, well, from the demographics that we have at DME, most of the employees who work for DME are women, and women are
okay,
likely the ones who take care of the kids, who take care of the people who are sick at home, people who
mhm,
are, I mean, elderly, their parents. So it's understandable that and I'm not just saying that it's because we are women, we like staying at home. It's not stereotyping women at all, but in reality, that's how things are. Like the main role of a woman is to take care of the family. And there
mhm,
may be times when an employee would be a little late from work, even though that they're already working from home. And that's because they're taking care of their family members. They have to do
mhm,
chores. Okay.
right,
People probably would be skipping a day or would call on sick leave, and people would be thinking, or some leaders would think that why would you still get sick? You're already at home. You're not prone to viruses anymore. You're not as stressful. I mean, life isn't as stressful as how it was when you're working at the office, right? But still, we get sick, okay? And it's natural because there are things that we are balancing here at home. So one thing
right,
that organizations do is really educate their leaders about how they should be shifting the way they lead from leading at the office to
mhm.
leading teams remotely. And empathy is a very big thing to make sure that you are effective in leading people from.
Let me just ask you your thoughts about that because, at least in the US, and I know that there's maybe a cultural issue with working from home because, I mean, if you look at us and you're typical, let's say, you just graduated from college, you decided to live on your own and you're working, you probably go home to either a dorm or a condo, okay? And it's
Mhm.
just you, or maybe it's another person. And, maybe you don't like getting stuck in that confine. That's where you want to go out. So I can understand that. Uh, in the US, where houses generally speaking are bigger, okay, you might find
Mhm.
space for an office that you can
Mhm.
actually seclude and hey, this is my space. So maybe it's a little easier there. So
Mhm.
I understand that cultural situation and all. Uh, but from your point of view, tell me what you think, because there's several large companies in the US that are forcing return to work.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Agree.
won't mention them, but I'm sure you know them, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and these guys are big companies, not small companies. They're big companies. And what are your thoughts about that?
I read many articles about that too, that people, even those who used to like working from home, now like to go back to the office because they get
Right,
bored. And it's
right.
expected because it's for many employees, they probably appreciate working from home because they were protected during the pandemic. But now it's
Hmm.
safer to go out, and it's natural that they can go back to the office. So um it's okay because again, working from home is a preference.
Hmm.
Um One can continue working from home after experiencing the benefits of it, and if it works with how they live, and if it's what they prefer, they can go on with that. Others can go back to the office. It's if it's what's work for them, then they may. Other organizations do hybrid. So they're more
Right.
considerate right now about people wanting to have both of the benefits of working from home and going to the office. And that's actually good because these organizations see that working from home is here to stay. And that's
Mhm.
true. Many companies now, one of the benefits that they offer is the hybrid setup, and many employees go to these companies because many still would like to stay at home, and if there's an opportunity to go to the office,
Mhm.
they can also visit the office. That's good because you can still the benefit of seeing your teammates in an office is still
Right.
is nice to have from time to time. So
Mhm.
I'm,
Right.
I'm I support the either hybrid or work from home, or again in
Mhm.
general it's a preference. So
I
anything that
think.
would work.
Mhm. Actually, I think that was one of the first roadblocks that organizations and employees as well had to face. And it was more like it was just you had two options: either I work from home or I go to work. They weren't thinking of,
Mm.
let's find something in between.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they did find something in between, they also soon realized that it really depended on the organization, the person. It wasn't, one size fits all kind of thing.
Yeah.
Two of my daughters, one of them was hired during the pandemic. So she was remote hire from day
Mm-hmm.
one. Okay, she was work at home from day one. And my other daughter, she started working, I think, a year or two before the pandemic. Then the pandemic hit, and I'm from Cainta,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and both of them were working in Ortigas, okay. And I still remember my daughter coming, Dad, if I have to be in Ortigas at 9, what time should I leave here? I just said, good luck. Okay. I just said good luck because the traffic is just so bad. Okay.
Yeah.
It's either you're there early or you risk being late. It's up to you. Okay. So,
Yeah.
traffic is obviously something that affects us. I used to work in Makati, and for me, working from home was a real, whoa. I saved about 4 hours in traffic, lost time literally because I can't do anything productive in a car or a bus. So I just said sleep. But it was really really something good for me. I said, and even me when it happened, oh, work from home forever. I wasn't thinking like it was they had the hybrid option, if you want to say. But especially you, your son, how old is he now?
E6.
6. So he started when all of this started. He was what, 1 year old, 2 years old,
He was around 3.
3. And at that point, it's better you stay at home if you have the chance for children that age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
So
yes,
I'm
definitely.
sure, I'm sure it was a big boon for you. Yay! Okay, you can figure out a way, and of course, you also had to adjust because of that. Uh, I mean, it's difficult when your son is also interrupting while you're working and things like that. But we already discussed that. Now, other than what we've spoken about, are there any other typical challenges that you foresee coming up into the future with work from home, of course? And is there anything? I'm not talking necessarily about AI, but what technologies are there that are making it easier to work from home? Because I saw Zoom mature. When Zoom
Mm-hmm.
started, they were just now they've got a bajillion different things you could do. Okay, all right. But are there any other new technologies coming up that might make work from home a little more comfortable or easier?
For the technology, I think many of the applications that we are using right now,
Mhm.
mobile applications can help you uh, manage your day-to-day tasks. One challenge that a remote worker should really navigate well is managing tasks day in and day out, because as what I said, there should be like proper planning of activities at home, and then the things that you have to do at work. So I can't name specifically some, but definitely project management tools. Microsoft actually has many applications that haven't been explored. Like before,
Yes.
uh, we don't take calls. Not saying that we don't prefer Zoom, but we don't use Teams that much. But when we switched to using Microsoft Teams, we learned that there are similar features that you can use on that application, and there are other things that we are discovering as we continuously use it. What I use right now under Microsoft too is the planner. Like the planner helps me delegate work to my team members, and
Hmm.
it's a free application we can get from Microsoft. And there are other mobile apps that we can check. In terms of other challenges that I'm foreseeing, this is not something that's new, but it's something that has to be addressed really. It's about wellness, Paul. So we know
Oh,
that, yeah, and when I talk about wellness, it's not just physical wellness, but it also encompasses mental, financial, emotional wellness. Okay, people don't realize the stress that remote workers go through. Even though that yes, they have eased the stress with the commute and other things. Um, for physical wellness specifically, like we always sit down. Okay.
right.
Many work from home employees gained weight, and that's because we don't walk that much anymore. So we need to really include in our routine working out, okay, walking, because that's something that we missed from working on site, the part that we
Mhm.
always move. Mental stress because I mean, mental wellness is important too because we go through a lot of challenges at work. And again, we're closer to home where we see all the challenges too immediately.
Mhm.
So there'd be times that you'd be stressed out, you'd be exhausted. And it's important that you have the support of your family members. So what
Mhm.
I really recommend for those who work from home is really work not only with your colleagues at work, but also with the people in the household so that they
Mhm.
understand your situation. Okay. Um, third is financial wellness.
Mhm.
Yes, there's a lot of perks in saving up because you don't have to spend for your commute every day, right?
Right.
And you can add that budget to your how home budget.
Mhm.
However, you're also prone to like buying things online. Right?
It's so
There's
easy. That's why.
it is very easy, and you can easily get your phone, order something on Grab, order something on Shopee, Lazada, and then you'd realize at the end you'd have a lot of expenses that you didn't think of splurging on before because you were saving up for commute, you were saving up for other
Right.
expenses, more important
Right.
expenses. So those are some of the things that remote workers need to be guided on, and it's very important, especially in my role right now at DME, that we provide programs that would remind them about, hey, you have to work out. So we have workout challenges time to time.
Mhm.
We also invite guests to provide tips on how to save so that somehow addresses financial wellness. And
That's nice.
in terms of mental wellness, we also invite speakers on how one can control or manage stress. We also have courses in L&D that
Mhm.
help people to understand how they can navigate better the work from home setup for them to succeed.
Well, I'm glad you're doing all of this because this is a lot of what you've said actually is new to me. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
wellness, absolutely. In fact, when I think about it, because wellness is already coming, how do you say, it was surfacing even before the pandemic. The concept of having a complete, a special mental wellness, and then health. Health has always been there. There was an article I just saw the headline. Sitting is the new smoking, and actually, I was personally it hit me pretty bad because I'm already overweight as it is. I'm not exactly young, and when it started, boy, my legs started swelling and all. It just wasn't working out. I said, fortunately, in my little village, I was able to do some walking, do some basic exercises, but I really had to get up and walk. Another maybe unintended um, how would you say, outcome of ordering online is additional plastic waste. And I mean, it's a lot. Okay.
Yes.
I still remember in the very beginning, it was really, whoa, what's all this plastic waste doing? It was just going all over the place. What's interesting, what's most interesting here is, and I sincerely hope that companies see it. This is actually the work from home, and I'm not talking about just the work from home aspect of it, but everything you mentioned. Those are things that should have been done even without work from home. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And now companies realize, oh gosh, I got to do it. So they've got to do that. But I think one of the bigger challenges, and you know this as a trainer, and maybe now you're experiencing it as well, is justifying the cost. You know what I mean? Because let's say I'm the guy with the money, and I say, "Hey, Paul, we've got to do this, 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 this. How much will it cost? 10 million." And that's a lot of money. How will I see it come back? Uh, how do you address those kind of situations?
Well, I'm fortunate that I'm part of a company that sees the value in investing on different wellness programs, Paul. So not just in the current company I have, and even in before I joined DME, I got exposed to making sure that we think of the employees' wellness. So while it's difficult really to say that directly because of this program, there's return on investment on it. But
Right,
again, if you look at it at the bigger picture, the usual metrics of the HR,
right.
attrition, productivity, they
Hmm.
would somehow contribute to employee engagement as a whole. So I admire companies who really are intentional funding wellness programs and engagement activities.
It's sometimes it's sad if you want to say because I've been in the position where I had to turn around two companies financially, and that meant cutting people. Okay. And usually, when an organization is faced with that situation, they just look at their profit and loss and say, "Oh, look, salaries very high." I said, "Oh, we got a wellness program. I don't see anything value," and then they just start cutting everything out. And then
Mm,
before actually, looking into it a little deeper. But this work from home situation, as you said, it's something that's it's here to stay.
yes.
I don't think it's ever going to change. And my personal opinion is companies just have to find their how do you call their sweet spot, what works and what doesn't work.
Mhm.
And because at least my daughters, I think she had to go to the office twice a week, and of course there were ad hoc situations where she had to go. But there were like 2 fixed days a week that she had to go, and she wasn't happy about the commute. But I said, well, at least it's only twice a week.
Yeah.
Especially in this country, the commute is really, really horrible. But the for me, and I only realized this after maybe about 6 or 7 months into the pandemic. When it comes to well-being, I said, look, I was lucky because when we got locked down, there were five of us in the house. Okay, and I don't have an apartment; I have a house. Okay, so at least there are five of us. But then I started thinking about the poor guy who's stuck in his 25 square meter condo, 18 stories high, and then he can't get out of there. I said, "Oh boy, this guy's gonna go crazy." I said, or
Yeah.
worse yet, he's gonna get stuck in social media and go down the wrong alley or something. I said,
Right.
so it's really challenging. Yes.
Correct. I agree with you. And that's where the personal circumstances that I was talking about
Hmm.
earlier would come in. There would really be some who prefer to work on site because of the benefits that they get from interacting with
Hmm.
people. If they learn best, or if they have a better day because of that, then working on site would really work for them.
Hmm.
As for someone who has to be very close to their family, like me as a mom, I prefer working from home because I can see the milestones of my kids. So it's really a
Yeah,
preference at the end of the day.
definitely. Definitely. Maybe this is just me thinking and look at the finances of the whole thing because when you decide to go into a hybrid setup, there's some costs that I think are a little difficult to balance. Okay, especially if you look at a very high level kind of issue, you're trying to figure out if Do I need this much office space? How many desk spaces do I need? Those are things that you have to project and become a little difficult when you get stuck with a hybrid situation. Rather than just being fully remote, at least you know that, okay, here are my costs. That's it. Okay. At least it's a little clearer in that sense. Maybe it requires a different approach or view to things. Because I teach leadership a lot, I say, look, leadership principles never really change. You still have to be empathize and all of that, but oftentimes the rules around it change. That's why it has to adapt, if you want to say, to whatever the new rules are. And the pandemic was definitely a big rule changer.
Agree.
That all of a sudden, it's people are saying leadership is in crisis. I said, no, it's not. They just figure out the new rules.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But other than what we've discussed, what are other maybe it's some tips that you can give an organization first, that's maybe struggling with the work from home concept, and also the employee who's working from home. Let's start with the organization.
For the organizations, again, based on my experience, if they would allow people to work from home, there are three things that remote work employee should have to be successful. First, they need the equipment. So make sure that the equipment that you provide is really suitable for a work from home setup. Like make sure that the
Mhm.
laptop is working, it's durable because anything can happen at home, right? So make sure that you give
Yes.
them good laptop, headset too. It's very important because that's how they communicate. There was a time when we were transitioning to the pandemic, I mean to the work from home setup in my other organization, that people weren't given cameras for
Oh,
their laptop. So there was a struggle to really connect and see what's going on with the person. So make sure that the laptop you provide has a working camera.
okay.
So that's equipment. And then the programs that I mentioned earlier, they have to be ready with that too, because there'd come a time that people would be really reaching out for help to be successful
Hmm.
in working from home. So programs for employees should be available. Um, so that's for program equipment and business continuity. Since
Okay.
they are entrusting the employees to continue the operations from home, it's very important that a business continuity plan is in place, because in the event of
Mhm.
calamities and unavoidable situations,
Mhm.
employees would not be able to save work first. It's the family first all the time, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
the organizations need to be ready for a site where people can go and continuously working. Like in the recent typhoon that we had, we opened our site in BGC for those who were
Hmm.
affected by the typhoon. So those are the three
Oh,
things that they should be ready with. Now,
okay.
on the
How?
employee,
Go ahead. Yes.
go.
Go ahead. I was going to say yes.
Okay. And then on the employee side, we, again, going back to my point, I always preach this to our new hires. They're lucky to be part of a company that really provides the equipment that they need. But they also have to think that they're not being hired as employees. They're being hired as franchise owners. Okay, that's the mindset I'd like them to think, because it's like an investment for the organization to entrust them with the equipment and to entrust them that they would be taking care of the operations from home. So
Right.
similarly, they have to have their PCP. So if their internet is down, we require actually two internet providers for our
Hmm.
employees so that there's a backup in internet source or internet connection. Same goes for power interruptions. They have to be ready, like they have to have their ideally power banks to still continuously connect or via phone even, or they have to look for alternative locations where they can work. Um, Discipline is very important for remote workers because again, of a lot of distractions that are we are experiencing here at home. It's important that they have the routines that they follow. And then lastly is agility. There are a lot of changes that happen in different organizations, and the adjustments for people who are working from home is different from those that are working on site. So
Hmm.
they have to be resourceful. They have to be quick in making sure that they can keep up with the changes. required by the company.
I like the way you said you have to be like a franchise owner because
Mhm.
even the idea of entrepreneurial thinking is something that I would raise in higher management. Okay, you have to imagine that you own the business. Okay, not you're not just an employee. And the line I would use is, especially for when he went from to work from home, was, the good news is it's all up to you. The bad news is it's all up to you. uh, but that was a line that I used a lot of. But thank you for those tips. It was extremely valuable. And I'm a boomer. I I came from the older generation of leadership, if you want to say, where their basis was literally the Bundy clock. Okay, they pay you when you come in and when you go home, kind of deal. And maybe that thinking is still there with some of the organizations. But the whole thing here is, if the organization, in my thinking, the organization doesn't have an option to work from home, you're limiting your pool of talent. Okay, because there are a lot of people who just left because there was no work from home option. Okay, so these are things that, and what you mentioned, the three tips that you gave both for the organization and the individual, these are extremely, extremely important to come through. But overall, I still think it's a very win-win situation because everything you're saying about the wellness, everything you're saying about somebody who works from home has to start thinking like a franchise owner. These are desirable traits, even if you're not working from home. Okay,
Agree.
so I said, what's there to lose? I mean, it's all there. so these are traits that are especially the communication part, because even before work from home existed, communication was already not that great in many organizations, especially communication upwards. Uh, and then now you have this. Okay, so you're forced to communicate, and more importantly, especially when I talk about speaking upwards, I said sometimes that's not the problem. The problem is listening downwards. It's the boss who doesn't listen well. Okay, so
I
given this
agree.
situation, he has no choice but to listen well. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it'll improve his skills even there. Okay, but Karen, thank you so much for making time for this. Before we wrap up, is there any event or maybe something that you'd like to share with our leaders where we can reach you?
Sure. So you can look up my profile on LinkedIn. So it's Karen Camus-Aguilar. And you can check there the activities that we have in the organizations I'm part of. Sometimes I post some words of wisdom, the things that go that you think of. I don't want to say that I'm a sort of someone who shares wisdom randomly, but when I'm inspired about things, I post there my thoughts. I also run training for I Am Remarkable, so that's a free training that promotes self promotion. So if they're interested to know about that, they can also check my profile if they want me to facilitate for them. I also do professional coaching. So I'm a transformative coach. So they can check also if they need career advice or simply chat on LinkedIn for an advice for their career. When I'm free, I can respond to them. And soon I'm going to publish my book. It's still in
Nice.
the works. It's something that's about adulting, Paul. So
Adulting.
yes, because adulting now is challenging for the younger generation. So that's one thing I'm working on, and hopefully I can publish in November. For our company, DME Service Solutions is a BPO company, and we have openings in different roles. So I hope you can check our site. We need people who will be helping us um, with our sales team, other operations. We specialize on healthcare operations, Paul. So
Mhm.
please check our site, DME Service Solutions, and grab the opportunity to work remotely. We have, I think, around 100 openings now.
Maybe I should talk to you later because I work remotely, but I work with the US companies,
Ah,
and I'm essentially they're called sales concierge. They answer the phone for sales.
oh, okay.
Okay, so that's what I do. Okay, so but anyway, it's very very interesting. But thank you for the tips, especially. I'll be looking forward to your book, Adulting. Maybe you can discuss it on another episode here as well.
Sure, sure.
Okay. It's when somebody came to me, he asked me, how come the younger generation is like this? And I said, no, hold on. You have to understand that the generation before me, okay, their focus was to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Okay. And so my generation, my focus was to get into a house. In Japan, it was known as the house, the refrigerator, and the car. Yeah. Then the generation that followed me, which I think are Gen X, they want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the millennials came along and they wanted to work in a nice place. Now
Right.
Gen Z says, now I want to work purposefully. But we have to realize that as a parent, and this, you want to give your offspring a better life. So the struggles that you had, you don't want him to go through, right? So
Yeah.
so that's normal. So then by the time they reach how do you call workforce age, they'll have a different view because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't go through the same struggles you did. Okay. So of
Right.
course it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Karen, it was wonderful having you here with us today. And as always, our next guest for episode 11 is Roel Victor Mariano, and innovation in the training profession. That's something that I think many of us will be excited to look forward to because I think a number of us are also trainers and facilitators. And as always, if you enjoyed this conversation, please click on subscribe, and follow. All those clicks definitely help us. And as always, learning is a never ending journey with limitless vistas.